Your engine is burning oil, maybe a quart every 2,000 miles, maybe more. You've tried premium oil, you've changed it on schedule, you've done everything the sticker on your windshield told you to do, and it's still burning. Here's what nobody told you. The oil brand matters far less than one specific property on the bottle, and most Americans are buying the wrong one without even knowing it. A Japanese mechanic who's kept Tokyo taxi engines running past 600,000 miles showed us exactly what to look for. We went home and tested 11 of the most popular brands sold at Walmart, AutoZone, and O'Reilly's. Here's what we found. Why your engine burns oil, and it's not what you think. Before we get into the brands, you need to understand why engines start burning oil in the first place. Because most people think it's age. They think it's miles. They assume at some point the engine just gets tired and starts going through oil. That's not what's happening. Inside your engine right now, there are piston rings, metal rings that press against the cylinder walls and seal the combustion chamber. When those rings are healthy and properly lubricated, zero oil gets past them into the combustion chamber. Zero. When those rings start to wear, from heat, from friction, from the wrong oil viscosity, they lose that seal. Oil gets pulled past them on every power stroke. It enters the combustion chamber, it burns with the fuel, and you lose a quart every 1,500 miles and start seeing blue smoke in your rearview mirror. Now here's what most American drivers never hear from their mechanic. Piston ring wear doesn't happen evenly over time. It accelerates. It accelerates during cold starts, when oil hasn't yet reached the top of the engine and rings are running with almost no lubrication. It accelerates during short trips, when your engine never fully heats up and fuel dilutes the oil faster than it can evaporate. And it accelerates when you're using an oil that doesn't maintain its viscosity under heat stress. That last point is everything. Viscosity is the resistance of oil to flow. When you see 5W30 on a bottle, the 30 is the viscosity rating at operating temperature. It tells you how thick, how protective the oil film will be when your engine is actually running hot. But here's what that number doesn't tell you: how long that viscosity holds. A cheap conventional oil rated 5W30 might start the day at the right thickness, but under sustained heat, the kind a turbocharged engine on a Dallas highway in July generates, the viscosity modifiers in that oil begin to shear. The oil thins out. The protective film gets thinner. The rings start to get less protection at the exact moment the engine is working hardest. A quality full synthetic, the right one, holds its viscosity under that same heat load. The oil film stays thick. The rings stay protected. The Japanese mechanic we spoke with, Kenji, who has been servicing fleet vehicles in Tokyo for 28 years, put it this way. In America, everyone asks me what brand. I tell them, the brand is the last thing that matters. What matters is the viscosity index and the additive package. Buy those two things. The brand name on the front of the bottle is marketing. The numbers on the back are engineering. We're going to get into exactly what those numbers mean, but first let me show you the test we ran. The test: 11 brands, 1 winner. We bought every major oil brand sold at the 3 biggest auto parts retailers in the US: Walmart, AutoZone, O'Reilly's. Mobil 1 Full Synthetic, Castrol Edge, Pennzoil Platinum, Valvoline Advanced Full Synthetic, Royal Purple, Shell Rotella T6, Quaker State Ultimate Durability, Lucas Oil Synthetic, Amazon Basics Full Synthetic, Haviline Pro DS, and store brand conventional as the baseline comparison. Every oil was tested in the same viscosity grade, 5W30. We measured 4 things. 1. HTHS viscosity, high temperature, high shear viscosity. This is the measurement that actually tells you how thick the oil film will be under the conditions your engine generates at operating temperature. The industry minimum is 2.9 millipascal seconds. The better oils exceed that by a meaningful margin. 2. Viscosity index. How stable the oil's viscosity is across a temperature range. A higher number means the oil thins out less as it heats up. For American drivers, this matters more than most realize, especially if you live anywhere that sees summer temperatures above 90 degrees Fahrenheit or you do any highway driving. 3. Zinc and phosphorus content, ZDDP. This is the anti-wear additive package. Zinc dialkyl-dithiophosphate is what coats your engine's metal surfaces and prevents direct contact during startup and high-load operation. Higher levels mean more protection, especially critical for older engines, engines with flat tappet camshafts, and any high-performance application. 4. Cold start pour point. How quickly the oil flows at 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Relevant for anyone in Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Montana, Alberta, or anywhere else that sees real winters. Here's what the testing showed. The bottom tier, the 2 conventional oils and one of the full synthetic brands that tested suspiciously close to conventional numbers, all showed HTHS viscosity at or barely above the minimum. Viscosity index under 160. ZDDP levels that were legally compliant, but barely. These oils will technically protect your engine under normal conditions, but under sustained heat load, they're running at the edge of their tolerance. The mid-tier, Quaker State, Haviline, Valvoline, performed solidly. Viscosity index in the 165 to 170 range, HTHS above 3.1, ZDDP in a respectable range. These are honest, competent oils that will serve most American drivers in normal 4-cylinder and V6 engines well. Then there were 3 that separated themselves. Mobil 1, Pennzoil Platinum, and Castrol Edge all came in with HTHS viscosity above 3.5, well above minimum, viscosity index above 175, and ZDDP levels that were among the highest in the non-fleet category. But there was one result that surprised us. Pennzoil Platinum Full Synthetic, which uses Pure Plus technology, a synthetic base oil made from natural gas rather than crude oil, posted the highest viscosity index of any consumer oil we tested. It also had the lowest level of sulfur compounds, which means it burns cleaner, produces less combustion chamber deposits, and keeps piston rings cleaner over time. For an engine that's already burning oil, or showing early signs of consumption, that combination of high VY and low deposit formation is exactly what you want to be putting into it. Now, does this mean Pennzoil is the only oil that works? Absolutely not. Mobil 1 and Castrol Edge are legitimate competitors, and for many engine types and driving conditions, they're equally valid choices. But when we took our findings back to Kenji and asked him which one he'd put in a high-mileage American V8 pickup that was starting to consume oil, his answer was immediate. He said, "Put in the one with the highest viscosity index and the cleanest base stock. Then change it at 5,000 miles, not 10,000, and don't overfill it." We'll come back to that last point, because overfilling is one of the most common and damaging mistakes American drivers make. What the numbers on the bottle actually mean. Let's decode the label. Because the information you need is already on the bottle. Most people just don't know how to read it. You're looking for 3 things: the API service rating, the ILSAC certification, and the viscosity grade. The API service rating tells you what standard the oil meets. Right now, for gasoline engines, the current standard is API SP, introduced in 2020. If your bottle says SN or SM, you're 1 or 2 generations behind. It's not catastrophically bad oil, but you're not getting the latest oxidation resistance, deposit control, or timing chain wear protection that the SP standard was specifically designed to address. For most American trucks and SUVs with GDI engines, that's gasoline direct injection, which is what's in virtually every new Ford F-150, Ram 1500, and Chevy Silverado since around 2015. API SP is the minimum you should be using. GDI engines produce more low-speed pre-ignition and more piston deposits than older port-injected engines. The SP additive package addresses both. The ILSA CGF6 certification is the independent verification that the oil actually performs to those standards in real engine tests, not just on a spec sheet. Look for the starburst symbol on the front of the bottle. If it's not there, the oil hasn't been independently certified. The viscosity grade, your 5W30, 0W20, 5W40, tells you 2 things. The W number, which stands for winter, not weight, tells you cold start performance. Lower is better for cold climates. A 0W oil flows faster at cold temperatures than a 5W, which flows faster than a 10W. If you're in Minnesota or Manitoba and you're running 10W30 because it's what your dad always used, you're starting your engine with thicker oil every morning than it was designed to handle. The second number, the 30 and 5W30, is the operating viscosity. This is where the protection happens at highway speeds and full operating temperature. Here's something Kenji told us that most American mechanics won't say out loud. If your engine is starting to burn oil, going up half a step in operating viscosity can help. If your owner's manual says 5W20 and you're losing oil, try 5W30. The slightly thicker film can compensate for ring wear that's already occurred. It's not a fix, but it buys time. Important caveat, this only applies to high mileage engines showing consumption. On a newer, tight engine, running the manufacturer's specified weight is always correct. Don't run 5W40 in a brand new Accord because you think thicker is better. It's not. What Kenji actually recommends for his American customers, because yes, he's worked with American fleet operators since 2018, is a tiered approach. Under 75,000 miles, use whatever full synthetic meets API SP/GF6 in the manufacturer's spec viscosity. Mobil 1, Pennzoil Platinum, Castrol Edge, all are solid. Change at 7,500 miles in normal driving conditions. 75,000 to 150,000 miles. Consider stepping up to a high mileage formula from the same quality tier. These have added seal conditioners that help aging gaskets and slightly higher ZDDP levels. Pennzoil High Mileage and Mobil 1 High Mileage are both legitimate. Change at 5,000 miles. 150,000 miles and above with oil consumption. Switch to the next viscosity step up from spec. Use a high mileage full synthetic. Change at 4,000 to 5,000 miles. Monitor with the dipstick between changes, not once a month, every 1,000 miles. The 3 mistakes that make any oil worthless. Here's the part of this conversation that matters more than the brand comparison. Because you can put the best oil in the world into your engine and still destroy it if you make these 3 mistakes. And these are mistakes that are extremely common among American and Canadian drivers. Not because people are careless, but because the quick lube industry and automotive marketing have trained people to think about oil in a way that doesn't actually match how oil works. Draining cold. Most quick lube shops drain your oil cold. You pull in off the street, they drain it in 5 minutes. Done. The problem, cold oil is thick. It clings, and contaminated cold oil lets particles settle out of suspension. The soot, the fuel residue, the microscopic metal particles from normal wear, they sink toward the bottom of the pan or coat the surfaces of oil passages. When you drain cold oil, you leave a disproportionate amount of that contaminated residue behind in the engine. Your fresh oil goes in on top of it. On day 1, the detergents in your new oil are working to clean up what the cold drain left behind, not protecting your engine. Japanese fleet mechanics drain at operating temperature, always. They drive the vehicle for 10 to 15 minutes before the change. Not an idle, actual driving, to bring oil to its designed operating temperature. Warm oil stays fluid, contaminants stay suspended. More of the bad stuff leaves with the drain. If you're changing your own oil, do this. Drive it first. If you're using a shop, ask them explicitly, did you run the vehicle before draining? You'll be surprised how often the answer is no. The 3-minute drain. After the main flow of oil slows to a drip, most shops reinstall the drain plug within 3 to 5 minutes. Done. They're leaving oil behind. Your engine isn't just a pan at the bottom. Oil is in the valve covers, in the timing chain cavity, in oil galleries running through the head and block. When you pull the drain plug, the pan empties fast, but the oil higher up in the engine is slowly making its way down through the passages. That oil, the stuff still descending from the upper engine when most people cap it off, is some of the most contaminated in the system. It's been in direct contact with the highest heat and the most combustion byproducts. Allow 15 to 20 minutes of drain time after the main flow slows to a drip. It costs you nothing except 15 minutes of patience. Over the lifetime of your engine, the cumulative effect on contamination levels is real and measurable. Overfilling. This is the one that surprises people the most, because it comes from wanting to protect the engine. When the oil level is too high, the crankshaft, spinning at the bottom of the engine, begins to contact the surface of the oil in the pan. At engine speeds, it doesn't just splash through it, it whips the oil into a foam. Air gets introduced throughout the lubrication system. Foamy oil does not maintain the same film stability as clean oil. The protective layer your bearings rely on becomes less reliable. In severe cases, foamy oil can actually reduce oil pressure and accelerate wear in exactly the components that need protection most. Beyond the aeration issue, chronically overfilled engines experience elevated crankcase pressure that forces oil past seals. Gaskets that were designed to operate within a specific pressure range start to deteriorate faster. This is a common cause of oil leaks in high-mileage engines that owners can't trace to a specific repair. The target is between the minimum and maximum marks on the dipstick, but specifically the upper half of that range. Not at the top of the full mark, not above it, upper middle. Add oil in small increments. Check after each addition. After startup, let it idle for 90 seconds, shut it off, wait 2 minutes, check again. This is the correct procedure. Kenji's full system. What 600,000-mile engines have in common? We asked Kenji a direct question. In your entire career, what do the engines that make it past 500,000 kilometers, about 310,000 miles, have in common? His answer wasn't about oil brands. He said, they all have owners who treat maintenance as a system, not a schedule. What does that mean in practice? A schedule says change oil every 5,000 miles, and the owner does it, checks the box, moves on. A system says, what conditions is this engine actually operating under? Am I doing a lot of short city trips or mostly highway? Is this a turbocharged engine that puts more heat through the oil? What climate am I in? How old are the seals? For American drivers, this distinction matters enormously, because the US and Canada have some of the most diverse operating conditions of any country in the world. A driver in Phoenix, Arizona running a turbocharged EcoBoost F150 in 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Summer heat is putting vastly different stress on their oil than a driver in Portland, Oregon running a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder on mostly highway miles in 65 degrees Fahrenheit weather. The same oil change interval, say 7,500 miles, might be perfectly appropriate for the Portland driver and borderline negligent for the Phoenix driver. Kenji's actual system adapted for North American driving conditions. For turbocharged engines, which now includes most new vehicles, including the Ford F-15, Chevy Silverado 2.7T, and virtually every modern European import, change oil no later than 5,000 miles, regardless of what the manufacturer's maximum says. Turbocharger bearings are lubricated by engine oil and generate extreme heat. Oil that's been in a turbocharged engine for 8,000 miles is chemically very different from fresh oil. For naturally aspirated engines in normal conditions, standard interval of 7,500 miles with a quality full synthetic is fine. Push it to 10,000 only if you're doing mostly highway miles in mild temperatures. For high mileage engines showing any oil consumption, check the dipstick every 1,000 miles, not every month, every 1,000 miles. This is the single habit that prevents catastrophic failures. Engines that seized from oil starvation usually had an owner who hadn't checked the dipstick in 3 months. For cold climate drivers, anyone regularly seeing temperatures below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, switch to a 0W viscosity rating for winter months if your manufacturer allows it. The cold start protection is meaningfully better, and that's where the most wear happens. For city drivers doing trips shorter than 10 minutes, shorten your interval. Fuel dilution and moisture accumulation happen faster in engines that never fully warm up. 4,000 miles is a responsible interval if this describes your daily commute. None of this is complicated, but it requires paying attention to your actual conditions instead of trusting a sticker on your windshield, the one additive that actually works. We get asked constantly about aftermarket oil additives, Lucas Oil Stop Leak, Engine Restore, ZDDP supplements, Teflon additives. The shelf at AutoZone is full of them. Here's the honest answer. Most of them don't work as advertised. Some of them actively harm your engine, and a few do something genuinely useful for a specific, narrow situation. The one that actually has legitimate chemistry behind it for a specific situation is a ZDDP supplement for high-mileage engines with flat-tappet camshafts. Modern API SP oils have reduced ZDDP levels compared to older formulations. This was done to protect catalytic converters, which ZDDP can degrade over time. For most modern engines, this is the right trade-off. But for older engines, particularly pre-1990s American V8S with flat-tappet cams, or any classic car or muscle car, the lower ZDDP levels in modern oil provide less protection for a component that was designed to run with higher zinc levels. A ZDDP supplement, like Driven Racing Oil's ZDDP additive or Brad Penn's zinc additive, can meaningfully extend the life of these camshafts. For everything else, the Teflon additives, the Stop Burn Miracle treatments, the Restore in a Bottle products, save your money. If your engine is burning oil, the answer is the right oil, the right viscosity, changed at the right interval, not a $14 bottle of something that claims to coat your rings from the inside. Kenji's exact words when we asked him about oil additives: "The only additive that never fails is discipline. Wrong oil, wrong interval, wrong habits. That's why engines burn. Now you know how to stop it."